The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 6-2. And the NFL officials are a disaster. We are going to talk about a huge win, especially on the defensive side of the ball today for Tampa Bay, just in time for the bye week, looking to get healthy. Taking your calls, all that and much more on today's post-game edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast.
I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with a head. Intercepted. At the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
23-3 is your final score from New Orleans as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take down the Saints, who are now 1-7. The Buccaneers 6-2, just in time for the bye week. A defensive masterclass from Todd Bowles and that Buccaneers unit today. A lot of playmakers from top to bottom, especially in the absence of some guys that we were worried about that we highlighted during the week. Anthony Nelson delivering a Shohei Ohtani-like performance. I mean, he was doing it all out there. And really an all-around good day for this Buccaneers team, who, slow start. Again, outside of the defensive takeaways, which we will get to, for the offense, it was kind of tough sledding in that first half. Ultimately came around, and they got the job done when it mattered. But a good win for the Bucs as they can officially look to the bye week and look into getting healthy. And 6-2 is not a bad spot to be whatsoever here, Evan.
No, it's definitely not. And look, I mean, this was sort of, and it's hard to say, oh, a must win, against a 1-6 football team, but I think it was, right? The entire taste in everybody's mouths would be completely different on this team right now if they had dropped 2 straight headed into the bye week, right? Especially, okay, you lose to a Detroit team, you're on the road. Detroit's one of the best teams in not just the NFC, in the NFL, right? Okay, whatever. Then you go on the road and I understand it's a divisional matchup, right? New Orleans has played scrappy at times this season, right? Like, it's not like they're getting just destroyed every game and you're on the road, but this was a game you simply just could not have lost, right? So it really would have dampened a lot of the stuff that you did really well early on in the season, right? That win against Seattle, the win against San Francisco, it would have been like, yeah, but like you could New Orleans and lay an egg. So it wasn't perfect, but the defense was nearly perfect, to be honest with you. But they got the job done, and like you said, 6-2 is 6-2, and that's a great spot to be in. Now you're just hoping to get as healthy as possible, in the bye week, and you got a couple of tough matchups after the bye week too. So that's another reason why this one was very important to get.
Shout out to Chigs coming through early with the $2 super chat. Says should have been a shutout. What effing whistle? And listen, my friend, with time we will get into that. I promise you, because it is now 2 weeks in a row, Evan, where it's hard to turn a blind eye to what NFL officiating is doing right now. Just, ultimately having a huge outcome in the way that these games are swayed. And yes, the Buccaneers ultimately won the game, but for the last 2 weeks, I mean, not to sound like a Lions fan, but for the last 2 weeks, I think you could make a legitimate case that, there are some calls in these games that should be looked at by some higher-ups around the NFL. And yes, I think these officiating crews should be reprimanded or face some kind of consequences for the BS we've had to look at these last couple of weeks, but it's the NFL.
Yeah,
we know how it's going to go, so we'll have that conversation, I promise. But before we dive into anything else from this game, I just want to highlight the defense because, again, for another week in a row, they are dangerous and they are taking the ball away. And yes, this is a 1-6 New Orleans Saints who, through the process of this game, benched their quarterback and Spencer Rattler. We saw the debut of rookie Tyler Shuck. He came into this game. And, I get that it's against the Saints, but it seems like they really have figured things out as far as taking the ball away. 4 takeaways for this Buccaneers defense, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. really probably should have had another defensive touchdown when you talk about the non-existent whistle. If a whistle is blown and nobody's around to hear it, Evan, does it even really make a sound is the million-dollar question here. But I had a statistic about the Buccaneers defense here. On opening drives this season, they have either given up points or taken the ball away, I think outside of the Seattle game. So they're in a rhythm. And I think when you look at the defensive performance today, a lot of that rhythm was contributed by Anthony Nelson, a guy who, quite frankly, I'll be honest, I really classified him coming into this game as just another dude. And I will eat crow on that because, he is shown in times like this before where he has to step up and the Buccaneers are missing some of their star players on the defensive line. He can step up and make plays. Pewter Report put out an article about it this week. They called their shot, and great work by them. That aged super well for them. But big day for Anthony Nelson. Big day for this Buccaneers defense. I mean, from top to bottom, there are playmakers seemingly all over the place in this game. This Bucs defense played great ball today.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Anthony Nelson makes me almost eat more crow than anybody, right? I mean, I remember last week I came on and I really criticized him, right? Because that fourth down play late in the game against Detroit where they had Gibbs sort of wrapped up and Nelson missed the tackle. Gibbs ends up getting the fourth down. I remember I really, I was really hard on him, right? And look, he made me, eat my words, right? And just fantastic day. I mean, literally, like you said, like a Shohei Ohtani performance, basically. Not only intercepting the ball, returning it for a touchdown. He got a sack. He got the forced fumble, just all over the place. The best game of his career, easily. And yeah, I mean, he was somebody that the Bucs, look, they had to have somebody step up, right? And with the absence of Hassan Reddick. And Nelson was that guy. And a lot of players on the defense played really well. And look, whenever you let a team not in the end zone, right? Like, yeah, like you're going to play, we're going to be talking about the defense a good bit. Something else with the defense, they're really starting to come on with the turnovers. That's now 10 takeaways in their last 4 games.
Yeah.
So they've been really good at taking the ball away now. And look, we talked about all them, like the I forget what exactly it's called, like the creating havoc stats or whatever. And the Bucs were near the top, right? And that was without really turning the ball over. I think Denver was number 1 and the Bucs were number 2 in terms of like just havoc plays. And that was just a couple weeks ago. They were still number 2. So now they're being able to take the ball away. It takes a defense to a whole nother level. And yeah, it's against the Saints, but look, again, like I said, this is now 4 straight games where they have consistently been able to take the ball away, and it's changed these games. So it's definitely a good thing to see. Will it, keep up? I'm somebody who believes that turnovers do come in bunches, right? So that sort of pace isn't going to happen all season long, but it is nice to see the defense get some takeaways and get some, not only that, but put the ball in the end zone too, right? That's another thing. That was really, but the Bucs should have had 2 today, right? And, potentially even more. Antoine Winfield Jr. ran to the end zone 3 times, 3 separate times. He already just ran to the end zone. He was hell bent on he was going to make sure that it was either 1, a turnover, or 2, that it was going to be a turnover that resulted in a touchdown. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for him, but he did end up getting the turnover eventually. But yeah, I mean, a great performance by the defense, and regardless of what the competition is, whenever you can basically pitch a shutout, keep a team out of the end zone, and it sucks because the one thing that they did give up, it was on a short field, right? New Orleans is almost already in field goal range after that fumble. But yeah, I thought the defense was fantastic, and just it never felt like the Saints had a shot. Like even when they changed quarterbacks, right, with Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shough, and I think maybe there's a little bit of nerves, right? You never seen this guy before. The Bucs are preparing for Spencer Rattler. There's a different quarterback. Maybe it gives them a jolt, and then you just go out in the first drive and immediately force another turnover. And at that point, you're like, okay, like the nerves, any nerves that you did have can subside basically, and you're good to go. So yeah, a really good performance by the defense and by a lot of different people on the defense, not just one guy. Even though Anthony Nelson, I would say, was probably the player of the game.
Yeah, good tackling day as well from top to bottom. I think that was one of the biggest differences in this week and last week. because the defense held up pretty well in that first half of the game against Detroit last week, but tackling was a big issue, and I think they did a much better job executing this week, just keeping things in front of them. I know they weren't facing an offense that was as eager to take shots down the field and didn't have as capable of a QB like Jared Goff is, but very strong performance, like you said. And Anthony Nelson, first player since Alex Highsmith in 2023 to have a forced fumble, sack, and a pick six all in one game. He was on one today, and we got plenty of other playmakers to talk about, but let's get to our first call of the show from the 813. Who's this?
Yo, what's going on, man? Hey, man, give you guys a call, man, from Jacksonville, Florida. This time was cracking.
How you doing, my friend?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. 6-2. We made it to the bye. Thank God. That was pretty much all we really wanted with the health starting from training camp all the way up to today. Honestly, I mean, there's always things we can nitpick, but I'm extremely excited, extremely happy with the team, and really pleased to be in this position. Thank God we're in this position, and it's a great day for the NFC South, well, particularly the Bucs. Everybody in the South loses except us. That's always a great day. So I'm definitely happy. I did want to point out some things, some good things and then some concerns. On the good side of things, looking at, I think we gotta show Jamel Dean some love, man. It's been a couple of weeks where his name has been brought up as it relates to some turnovers. I think he's playing great ball. Obviously, we know what the restructure of the deal is, and what that dance should be in the off season. But I will say, he's been available, and he's been having a quietly great season. And I just want to show him some love on that. Obviously, big shout out game balls, in my opinion, Anthony Nelson. After Hassan Reddick goes down, this is next man up mentality. I think it was an overall great game by him. Obviously, as you guys already pointed out, by the entire defense, and that's just a good play. I do want to bring up the point that offense only put up 16 points. If we think about it, in a team like this, obviously we know that they're not a good team, but it's more so offensively versus defensively. So I mean, they still have a very, very solid pass defense. I believe it's top 10 or something like that. So obviously expecting that, but my question really is, when I'm looking at the offense, and this is overall, we've always gotten to slow starts over the last, of basically this entire season. But when I'm looking at Josh Gazzari, I'm evaluating this offense. One of the things that I am concerned about are where are the on-time throws, because we know that our line isn't that good. Are you guys seeing like a lack of scheming or just a lack of execution, and just a three-step drop back pass, five-step pass? Like, where are those like kind of just on rhythm passing schemes where this guy should be open 9 out of 10 times as almost a first read, just to get Baker settled? Because it just seems that, I don't know if he's injured or what, but it just seems like he's not settled to start a lot of these games. And I would just, sit back and listen to you guys, man. Hope everything's going well, and thank you guys for the work that you guys do each and every week.
Appreciate you, my friend. Great call. Go Bucs. We'll talk to you soon. Evan, I was actually going to pose this question to you also. When you look at mostly the first half of this game, and we'll get into the offensive performance here too, plenty to break down on both sides of the ball, specifically Baker Mayfield, I thought coming into this game, the first half, I couldn't tell if it was more New Orleans defense is doing a really good job at taking away that three-step drop completion from Baker Mayfield. Either they're just doing a really good job and they're playing, really good tight man coverage, or Baker just didn't really look like himself. I'm sure it can be a little bit of both. Like, I think both things can be true, but what were your thoughts overall on the slow start here for the offense, which unfortunately has become a bit of a trend here? Thought it wouldn't be as bad this week.
Well, we knew they were going to want to run the ball more, right? Because Todd Bowles mentioned that after the game last week, and they ran the ball, I think, 11 times the entire game against Detroit, and we knew they were going to try and focus on that, right? That was going to be a point of emphasis, getting the ball into Rashad White's hands, into Sean Tucker's hands. I actually really liked what I saw out of Sean Tucker today. I thought he was like the Bucs' best running back out there, to be honest with you. So good for him. I guess it's playing the Saints. He's just a Saints killer, I guess. But yeah, I do think it's a little bit of both. I think right now what I'm seeing is an offensive line that's starting to leak oil a little bit, I think. And I think you're starting to see that, well, they've been able to sort of patch things together and stuff throughout the season with different guys being out and in, and now you're starting to see that it's not they're just not playing well, right? I think the interior. I don't think Graham Barton played well today. That's a couple of games where I didn't think he played well. Ben Bredesen, I didn't think played that well. Dan Feeney didn't play that well. I thought Tristan Wirfs had a pretty bad game.
That was going to
Yeah.
be my follow-up. And I mean, really just outside of the game, because there's been a few snaps this season where he doesn't look like the Tristan Wirfs we know and love. And I don't want to be overcritical about the team after a win, especially an NFC South win. You're heading into the bye week. You are 6-2, which they have only done a handful of times before. So, we're in a really good spot right now as an NFL team. But is something going on with Tristan Wirfs? Like, because again, he had a couple of false start penalties this game. That is out of character for him. Now, I don't know if they were legitimate. I don't know. We weren't getting good replays. We weren't getting good angles from Fox. So I couldn't tell you because I didn't see it. But with that being said, like, do you think that could also kind of contribute to, again, that uneasiness on the offensive side of the ball here in the first half, just not being able to really establish a rhythm, especially because, Baker not looking like himself and not looking comfortable, not having time to throw is absolutely a factor in that as well. I don't want to pretend that it's not.
No, it definitely is. And I mean, there might be something, right? I mean, but like the thing is to me is like, I don't want to say like, oh, they rushed him back, but it's like he looked fine when he came back, like it wasn't like it was something where like, oh man, like he's looked fine for the most part. And there were even plays like last week where he looked pretty good, but this week it was just not happening, right? Chase Young did a really good job against him, and like you mentioned, 2 false start penalties, and that can't happen, especially when you're banged up on the offensive line as is, but then you're banged up on the offense, right? You don't have the same weapons that you're used to having, and you don't have the same offensive line. Like, you need your top guys to be your top guys, and Tristan Wirfs was not that today. So I do think a little bit of it with Baker is that, I think he maybe feels the pressure a little bit more. I'm not sure if he has full trust in the offensive line yet. Hopefully Luke Gedeke can come back here shortly. Maybe week 10, we'll see, but I would expect him to be, if not week 10, shortly thereafter. Hopefully he's good to go here soon. I also think Baker Mayfield's hurt a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
he's popped up on the injury report, so it's not like I'm breaking news or anything. But like I think he's hurt, and I think he had a limp walking off the field against Detroit. He was about 10 to 15 minutes late for his press conference after the game against Detroit, which would signal he was probably getting looked at by the medical staff for something. I think he's a little bit more banged up than it's being let on. But again, you have the bye week, right? So hopefully that's something that you can at least rest a little bit and be good enough to go right after the bye week. But I do think it's a mixture of things, right? The offensive line not being healthy, the players who are healthy and are supposed to be starters for you, like Graham Barton, Tristan Wirfs, not playing well, and I think Baker, like, he didn't play well last week, but I also think he's being hampered by injuries a little bit right now. You can see it because he barely runs at all anymore, right? Like these last 2 games, he has not even really attempted to run. He's looking pass every time he rolls out. So just a little uncharacteristic for him. So that's another reason why I'm like, I wonder if there's something here.
Yeah, and there was mention late this week, too, on the injury report of an oblique injury that he's going to be dealing with. Jacob Parrish today suffered an oblique injury in that game, so going to be something to monitor. Of course, on the other side of the bye week, it helps that you have this, I don't want to say vacation, but week off. So hopefully we have some better injury news on the other side of next week. Before we take our next call, another thing you had mentioned briefly about the offensive line, another right guard in the lineup. The Buccaneers made a change. Dan Feeney getting his first start for Tampa Bay. He is their 5th starter at right guard through the first half of the season here. Cody Mauch played week 1 and 2, went down, lost him for the year. Elijah Klein played week 3 against the Jets. Started week 3 against the Jets. Luke Haggard played week 4, 5, and 6. Mike Jordan started at right guard week 7. Struggled on Monday Night Football against Detroit. The Buccaneers looked at it and said, yeah, he struggled quite a bit. We're going to throw Dirty Dan Feeney in there. So he was your starter for the Buccaneers at right guard in week 8. It's hard to be overly critical about Dan Feeney right now, but he's been on this team for a couple of weeks. Hopefully he can settle in. Hopefully he's the answer. Because I mean, you're just going to continue shuffling guys at right guard until you can find one.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like Luke Gedeke might come back. Cody Mauch is not. So like that
Yeah.
right guard position is going to be something where you can't just say, well, once this guy comes back, no, like that's going to be something you're going to have to correct eventually.
Absolutely. From the 626, who is this?
What's up, fellas? It's Richard T from the West Coast.
Yes, sir. How we feeling?
Oh, we just whooped on some Saints ass. I feel amazing. Like, I have a spike of energy. It's going to be a good week. And we just didn't, like, whoop their ass. Like, we put boot to ass. Helps that they don't have a good quarterback. So that's good. But, man, Nelly. I mean, it's easy to say right now, right? Like, NFC player of or defensive player of the week.
I think
right. He has to be in the front running.
I think so. I think it has to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Has to be.
They love the flashy stat lines. They're going to get a lot of highlight reel wear out of the highlight of him stiff arming Spencer Rattler into the dirt on the pick six. I know he kind of fell into him. Maybe he didn't expect to shove him down as hard as he did, but they kept showing that replay over and over and over. And then even on the broadcast, when we come back from halftime, they have the package put together, and they put that clip in there at least 5 times. So I'll never get tired of seeing it. I think for Spencer Rattler, unfortunately, I don't know if we'll see him again at quarterback for the Saints this season. Maybe you will. Maybe you will, the way that their year is going. But it's kind of like a Chris Conte moment in my mind. It's just kind of funny. So you love to see it happen in New Orleans. But yes, Richard T, vibes are high, my friend.
Oh, man. But as good as it was, on defense has been outstanding. Going back to last week, I feel like the defense has been playing to win the game. Like, they played well enough to win last week, and it's unfortunate that the offense needs a little pickup right now. And, we're down to wide receivers 4, 5, 6, 7 right now. So I think this bye week is really going to help. Hopefully Godwin comes in soon, even though he's not going to be the same Chris Godwin right now, but he's still a notable threat for opposing defenses who they will have to pay attention to. So he's going to garner some attention when they get back. But yeah, the offensive line, you guys were discussing it when I was on hold, and it's really been a concern. I mean, I was just chatting with some of my Bucs friends, and we all agree that like Barton has really been like, it feels like he's regressing, and I don't like seeing it because he's kind of getting owned out there for the where we took him in the draft. We could have picked instead of him. I know he's a smart dude, but as of right now, he kind of looks the same as Bobby Rainey, just like the legs aren't under him. What do you guys think?
What do you think, Evan?
Look, I mean, I do think there might be some regression there. To be fair, I don't think he didn't look as bad early in the season. I think it's more particularly like these last 2 or 3 games. But they need him to be better, right? Like where they drafted him obviously matters. But he's one of the guys they're relying on, right? And like, especially with, we all looked at it like their interior. When you look at Cody Mauch and Ben Bredeson, okay, Cody Mauch's the stronger of the two, right? Like, if the Bucs offensive line is completely healthy, Ben Bredeson's probably the weakest link. Well, now when you take Cody Mauch out of the equation and he had Ben Bredeson there, and Bredeson's been sort of up and down, you need Barton to step up on that interior, and he just hasn't yet. So hopefully he can turn around in the second half of the season. I'm not really concerned about Barton long term, but hopefully it's something that they can correct sooner rather than later, because if they want to get to where they want to get to, the offensive line, especially the interior, is going to have to be better. I mean, you're not going to win many football games against better competition with Baker Mayfield not really having much time.
Richard T, great call, buddy. We got to cut you loose there. We got a couple more calls we're going to try and get to. From the 646, who is this?
Hey guys, this is Gerald from New Jersey.
Gerald, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine. Big fan of you guys' show. Just a quick question. With the trade deadline coming up and just seeing how guys have been banged up, how active do you think the Buccaneers will be, one, at the trade deadline? And do you think that originally maybe a pass rusher, I heard Max Crosby potentially might be, on the trade block? But on the offensive side, the last two games, seems like this team is really, really sluggish. And they got a brutal stretch after the break, starting off with the Patriots and then following up with the Bills and Rams. So my question is a two-part. How active do you think the Bucs will be at the trade deadline? And which area of concern do you think they should address via the trade deadline? Is it the defensive side, perhaps a pass rusher, or perhaps somebody on the offensive side, so be it the offensive line, or maybe another pass-catching wide receiver? Thanks.
Great question, my friend. We're going to dive right into it. I think it's a valid concern. The trade deadline is going to be brought up week in and week out, and you're going to look at guys continuing to go down with injury. You're going to look at some of the non-performers on this football team. Servassier Dennis, again, had a couple of plays. Like, let's not pretend that Servassier Dennis hasn't done anything all season.
He wasn't awful. He really wasn't awful.
But, again, in coverage, Alvin Kamara had a nice little highlight against him today. Alvin Kamara, a guy who didn't do very much today in the game, did find time to make a play against Servassier Dennis. And, that's something that happens every week. So, I do think that when you look at that, you look at Hassan Reddick potentially missing time, still uncertain about that. And then bringing up the offensive line, everything that we have talked about so far up until this point, I have kind of emotionally ruled out the idea of the Buccaneers getting aggressive for a pass rusher. I just don't think this is the year that it happens. I think that, unfortunately, for a lot of people, we've said this before, Jason Light is very much a we like our guys. And Anthony Nelson's performance today was the epitome of Jason Light trusting in the process of we like our guys. So if you were hoping for a big, sexy edge rusher after Anthony Nelson just had a pick six and 2 sacks and a forced fumble, all that, I think you might have come up short on that wish just a little bit. And that ship has sailed. That's totally fine. I've accepted that. But I look at it, Evan, and I do think that if there are 2 positions where the Buccaneers could make a trade, I would like for it to most be linebacker, just to get some coverage help in there, just to get some more rotational guys. I don't know how much we can really trust in Deion Jones. But I think offensive line is also a fair point. Keeping in mind who's going to be available at this point. Guys who are available for a reason.
Yeah.
But a lot of people
teams aren't looking to give away starting offensive linemen in the middle of the season.
Right. But a lot of people have this mindset that, hey, anybody is going to be better than what we have in there right now. And when you're a 6-2 football team, you come up to the bye week and you ask, how can we be even more competitive on the other side of this and really make a run at this thing? So what are your thoughts here as the trade deadline is looming? I know it's not a Jason Light thing to do, but we've said it before. I'll say it again. You remember what happened the last time he traded midseason?
So in terms of the first question about activity, I have a gut feeling they are going to make a trade. It's not going to be a Max Crosby or Trey Henderson. And I agree with you. I actually don't even think it's going to be a pass rusher at this point. The Bucs are, and look, and I know not all of this is like the 4-man pass rush, but the Bucs are still, I think they're second in the NFL in pressure rating, and they're 9th in the NFL in sacks. So, and that number, that may actually go up after this week, but I believe it's counting this week, but we'll see. No, it's actually not. So they were 9th. Entering this game, they were 9th in the NFL in sacks. So, and they had, 4 today or something like that? So 5 maybe. So that number might go up. I don't know, man. And look, I agree. I do think long term they need a number 1 pass rusher. Long term they need that. But when you look at, you spoke about what's available at the trade deadline, are you going to find that, right? Unless you're selling the farm for Max Crosby, which the Raiders have still given every indication is not available, right? It's the Cowboys apparently called the Raiders about him and were rebuffed, basically. The Cowboys called the Bengals about Trey Hendrickson even. That's another guy the Bucs fans have been wanting, and the Bengals said no.
Imagine how good the Cowboys would be if they had an edge rusher.
An elite pass. Yeah, I know. I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they could use it. If only they had an opportunity to have one of those. But I mean, I do agree that if they're gonna make a trade, which, like I said, just gut feeling, I don't have any sources or anything on that, but it's sure, like it feels like they could. I think linebacker would be the spot. And there's a couple guys. Jordan Brooks from the Dolphins is a guy who a couple people have kept an eye on. Logan Wilson from the Bengals that just requested a trade. He's been struggling this season. Like he hasn't been that good. I think the reason he requested a trade is because he got benched.
Yeah, it's the younger guys.
Yeah, because like he just wasn't really that productive. So again, like we talked about, there's a reason that these guys are gonna get traded, right? Some of it's contracts, some of it's just not being very good. They're available for a reason. So we'll see. I'm not expecting anything groundbreaking, but I do think there's a real chance they do make a move before the deadline, which is after next week. So the Bucs still have their bye week, and then I believe that the Tuesday after their bye week is the trade deadline.
Let's get to our next caller from the 813. Who's this?
Wow. You want me honest? Who I honestly thought that was at first? I thought it was Mikey, to be honest with you.
Yeah?
I thought he was gonna start rapping, and that just never happened.
I'm actually still kind of processing what just happened. He didn't say anything that's going to get us demonetized, so I'm not worried about that.
Sound like Elmo.
What was the take there? I've been waiting on calls like that, and I hope that doesn't open the door for more of them, because then we're going to have to stop taking calls, and that's not fun for anybody.
Right.
We continue to talk about playmakers in this game, and I want to go back and highlight the defense a little bit more. I want to talk about Jamel Dean and the season he's having. Man, a forced fumble for Jamel Dean. He's making it a habit now to take the ball away. I think he's doing it better than anybody on this Buccaneers defense right now. Should have had a defensive score on that forced fumble against Rashid Shaheed. But again, if a whistle blows in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? I guess it does. But Jamel Dean, on his way to at least the first half of the season, without a doubt, he looks like an all-pro, man. He's doing it all out there for Tampa Bay, and you love to see it.
Yeah, he's been really good, right? And it's almost like he's always been a good football player, and he just had a bad year. Like it just, and again, it just, I hate to say it all the time because it's true. Like there's a difference, right, between a bad player and a bad year. There just is. I don't think Jamel Dean's a bad football player, and I think he's sort of proving that this year. And look, turnovers, they don't tell the whole story, right? Like there could be a guy who has 6 interceptions in a season, but you're like, yeah, but he gets 6 interceptions because he bites on every double move. And we have a $10 super chat from Amazement 717 says, this was a just win the game type of week. Just get out healthy and good to go. 6-2. Defense was flying around, which was good to see. Could have been worse if not for a few bad refs moments once again. Yeah, I agree. Right? I mean, and I think that's sort of the the thing, right, with that about the refs, and they took at least 7 off the board, right? Like they took at least a touchdown.
14.
It definitely could have been worse.
14.
Right? It could have been worse.
Listen, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Last week it was easy for it to kind of roll off on my back, but they took 14 points away from this Buccaneers defense today. I am convinced entirely.
Yeah, the second one, or so you're talking, is that on the interception or the one where they just where they ruled an incomplete pass? Because it was the same drive.
The incomplete pass. He made a football move. It was fumbled, picked up.
That's the thing. Yeah, I didn't think, and I guess I don't quite understand the rule, but I thought, and this is the same thing as last week too, with the I believe it was the Kate Otten thing. About the football move. No, it was about the Sterling Shepard thing.
Right.
I thought that if you take one step, you have possession of the ball, you take one step, you make a football move. I thought that sort of took in place of like the second and third step, basically, because he catches the ball, turns, lunges, and then the ball pops out. I was like, okay, so that's a football move, kind of. I do understand it was like a bang bang play, kind of. But yeah, it was close. It was pretty close. And I guess, look, ball don't lie, right? Because literally, I think 2 plays later or something, Antonio Field Jr. ends up with the interception anyway. But yeah, I mean, definitely could have had 14 points, 21 points total from the defense. That would have been one heck of a fantasy day. But yeah, so they could have been a lot, and I thought Winfield was really good, right? Um, yeah, I thought he was really good as well. So yeah, Dean though he's been playing good football, and look, he's a motivated player, right? And it's probably not going to be in Tampa, to be honest with you. I think we had talked about that when it happened, right? That like this sort of thing, with like the restructuring, and now he's a free agent after this year. Like it's sort of a signal that like, yeah, like you're not really in future plans. He's gonna get paid pretty good though, right? I mean, I think he's in line for a pretty good payday. And look, so far he's earned it. It's not that he hasn't earned it. He has earned it, and hopefully he can keep it up and stay healthy. We all know that's been an issue for him, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys in the secondary. I mean, the entire defense, sure, but a lot of the guys in the secondary played, I thought, really well today, and it felt like at least one player in the secondary, all of them, made at least one play, and that
Yep.
was like noticeable.
No, 100%. It's rare when that happens. And I think when you look at just the sheer level of playmaker that is in this Buccaneers secondary right now, it's the most that they have had in a very long time. You've got a lot of guys who have a tendency now to take the ball away, or at least come away with a couple of critical pass breakups. Zion McCollum, who has been kind of quiet this season when you compare him to everybody else having pretty ridiculous seasons here in the secondary. He had a solid game today, a couple of critical pass breakups. You mentioned Antoine Winfield Jr. He had the interception, and what a play on that interception as well. It's another one of those plays where, just like the goal line punch against the Falcons a couple of years ago, like I just can't see any other player on this defense catching an interception the way that he did that one in particular. But definitely should have had two today, or at least two touchdowns, if you will. Tyke Smith, he's been a tackling machine so far this season. He is physical. Yeah, Dub in the chat brings up a great point. Physical and consistent. And that's what you love to see out of the guys here in this Buccaneers secondary. Let's go back to the offensive side of the ball again. It kind of sucks because it's a tale of two sides of the ball here. I don't know if we're going to find a ton of great things to say about the Buccaneers' offensive performance today. Again, they made things happen when it mattered. And we got points on the board in the second half, and like that was a big thing. Money Mac, we will
They're
get to
in the second half, right? Like there was one point where at halftime or whatever, it's 7-3, and the Bucs had scored 9 points in their last 6 quarters of football.
What I want to talk about is Josh Grizzard, specifically Josh Grizzard's tendency to call plays in the red zone. There was an opportunity the Buccaneers had from the 1-yard line in the first half of this game. First and goal. It's an inside handoff. Second and goal was an inside handoff. Third and goal, Evan, was an inside handoff. And fourth and goal, you're not going to believe what they tried to do. It was another inside handoff. And wouldn't you believe it, the Saints made the stop. And they almost did it again. They almost did it again until the fourth down Sean Tucker touchdown. Which
they
again,
did on that one, though. They did throw it twice.
Right. They did throw it twice. I don't love the throws either. Let's talk about throws.
Yeah, I don't like that.
One of them was a fade to Sterling Shepard.
Almost
and then
got picked.
Another one was, I don't know if it was the same play, but it was the same area of the end zone, and it was basically a one receiver read with a Mecca.
Yeah, it's like a
Ibuka.
back shoulder. I think Baker threw it to the wrong. Baker throws it inside. It's sort of supposed to be outside.
Yeah.
So that one might be. Here's the thing.
I really what I want to highlight here is the lack of creativity in the red zone. I mean, 8 times the charm with Sean Tucker finally getting in there for the Bucs, but that was a backbreaker in the first half.
Yeah, I do agree, right? I would have liked to seen a pass or something different there, at least one of those times in the first half there, the one down there. But at the same time, you guys are NFL players. Punch the ball in. Like you're on the 1-yard line. Like get the ball in the end zone, right? Like come on, you can't get a yard. Like come on. Like you get that many tries to get a yard and you can't do it. Like the offensive line and that's what I'm saying, the interior just has to be so much better, right? They kept breaking down. You have to be better. And look, the play calling, whatever it may be. Would I have done it 4 straight times? No, like I said, I would have mixed in a play action pass, maybe catch him sleeping there. It's actually technically 5 straight because on the first and goal, New Orleans had an offside penalty, so the Bucs didn't score on that one either. But Maybe do a play action pass, or maybe just run it, a toss, or something different like that. Maybe not right up the middle. At the same time, we always talk about player execution and play calling, and that's a little bit of both. Like, yeah, the play calling could have been better, but also you're in the NFL, you're on the 1 yard line, you have 4 tries, punch it in. Like, just find a way to like get an inch, right? Like, at that point, I'm like, like, yeah, it is on the coaches, but it's also on the players. Like, you have to execute much better than that. On the second one, right? Mayfield, that's the 2 throws. They're not very good throws. Now, I don't love the play calls, but they're also not very good throws. He was fortunate that the first one to Shepard wasn't picked. And like I said, that second one sure seemed like that's a back shoulder sort of fade. And I think that ball needs to be on the outside. It's on the inside. Kool-Aid, McKinstry's able to make the play on it. But luckily, they were able to get it in, and it didn't matter, But yeah, not great.
I think that's one of those realistic scenarios too that just highlights how badly you're missing your big star players, right? You're down your top 3 wide receivers right now. You got no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Jalen McMillan. I know Jalen McMillan isn't necessarily a big end zone threat, but he's a guy who can absolutely be useful in this Buccaneers offense right now of all times as well. And I will say about Ibuka on that one play, maybe Baker threw it to the wrong shoulder. I love Emeka Ibuka, man, and he's going to be very good for a very long time. But you know what we saw in Red Zone today? He's no Mike Evans. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Give him a couple of years. And,
I mean, he's not going to be 6'5", so he'll never be like
yeah.
Evans.
He's just not.
Apparently, they think Sterling Shepard is because that's a Mike Evans route that they throw like 5'10"
yeah.
Sterling Shepard.
Vertical bully Sterling Shepard.
That's what they tell him. Yep.
I will say, though, we talk about coaching a little bit here with the Josh Grizzard thing. I think outside of that, it was still a lackluster day for the offense. Looking forward to watching the game again throughout the course of the week. But like first impressions is there wasn't very much there. But I want to talk about those 4th down conversions for Tampa Bay, or at least the one that ended up being a Sean Tucker touchdown. I think Todd Bowles, so far this season, I mean, not only is his defense absolutely humming right now, and it carried the Buccaneers in this game today, but he's playing a lot more aggressive. He's going for it on 4th down, man. Yeah. He's coaching without fear, I think, at a level that he hasn't done in Tampa so far. And we look back to those offseason acquisitions, the guys that he's got up in the booth now, basically, his analytics nerds that he went out and hired. I think some of that stuff is coming in handy. Yeah. I think it's been pivotal so far this season, and credit to Todd Bowles for having this team 6-2 right where they are.
Yeah, we have a $4.99 super chat from Sturb. Thank you, Sturb. He said, wanted to see a Baker play action, lonely bootleg there. Here's a case of Miller lattes, or potentially lights, I guess, for the CFP crew. Appreciate you, Sturb. Appreciate everybody who has super chat so far. I really appreciate all the support. So thank you guys a lot. But yeah, I mean, look, the play calling, the creativity, like I think Grizzard for the most part has been fine this season. Like I think he's been pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's like Liam Cohen level, but like also like we do have to remember the pieces that he's working with. Right, or lack thereof, I should say. Now, Tej Johnson played well today again. Did have a drop on 3rd down, which he needs to catch that ball. That's another thing we're talking about, right? The execution errors. But I do think that Grizzard has been fine for the most part. Now, I mean, the past 2 games have been a little difficult, right? But you're on the road playing 2 teams who the Saints, I believe, the stat that the one caller was talking about earlier. I think the Saints were like top 10 in the NFL in takeaways, I think was one of the numbers. So their defense wasn't bad. And then Detroit is a really good football team, right? So when you're missing Mike Evans, you're missing Chris Godwin, you're missing Bucky Irving and Luke Gedeke and Cody Mauch, like I think you're starting to see an offense that it's starting to catch up to them a little bit.
Yeah.
I think defenses are being able to game plan around what the Buccaneers do with the pieces they do have, right? They're able to game plan to stop the Tej Johnsons, game plan to stop the Emeka Ibukas. They're trying to take that stuff away from the Buccaneers right now. So hopefully in the bye week, the Bucs get a little more healthy. Hopefully Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin can come back, Luke Gedeke as well. I think that'll make a pretty big difference, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and a term that you had used earlier was something I really like here just to describe where they are right now, leaking oil, right? Like they are a good team. They are 6-2, but if they are forced to play like 3-4 more weeks in the state that they are currently in, I don't know if they're going to look like a 6-2 team in every single one of those games, right? So it's again a perfect time for the bye week, a good chance for the Buccaneers to get healthy. It is being mentioned again, Baker Mayfield, that injury. I think that's a huge factor. I really do. You know, it's easy to look at Baker and say that's not the same guy. He looks like crap today. But if he's playing through an injury, man, especially someone as gutsy as Baker Mayfield, I have no doubt that he's probably going to be rehabbing a little bit extra over the bye week. And then Richard T here mentions tough stretch coming out of the bye week. The Buccaneers have the Rams, the Bills, the 6-2 Patriots, not necessarily in that order, but all three teams that you don't necessarily want to see right now, at least when you're not healthy coming off of a bye week. And Amazement 717 with a $2 super chat. He says, is the Dennis slander over? Just needs to play more, in my opinion. I don't know if it's over, but we're going to get a break for at least a week here. Evan, though, your thoughts on Baker playing through injury?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the biggest thing of evidence for that is the lack of running. It just seems like he is so much more hesitant to take off and escape the pocket and move upfield. It always looks like he's trying to get rid of the ball when he moves out of the pocket instead of taking it and getting 4, 5, 6 yards. There was one where I thought he might have been able to get the first down. It was early in the game, but might have been on the first or second drive. But threw the ball to Cade Otton, and Otton probably should have caught it, but he didn't. It would have been a tough catch, but probably should have caught it. But I was like, man, seemed like he could have ran the ball, like at least got closer. And I do think he's going through something right now. And again, it's not a secret, right? Like he's been on the injury report like multiple times this season, and he's gonna play through it. We know that, but hopefully he can get it right, and hopefully it's not something that can, get worse or really hinder his ability. Because like that's Baker Mayfield at his best, right? When he's able to, sure, stay in the pocket and deliver some balls, but when he's able to escape the pocket and make plays with his legs and pick up on a 3rd and 8, pick up 10 yards, instead of can't find anybody open, you're able to do that. That's when he's playing at his best. And if that is something that's hindering him right now, well, hopefully that's something that can go away because, again, like you mentioned, they have. I mean, their next 3 games are Patriots, Bills, Rams. That's the next 3 games in order. And I think the Patriots are a 6-2 football team? I don't know. I think they're good. I don't know if they're 6-2. Because like when you look at who they've beaten, like they beat New Orleans, they beat Carolina, they beat Miami, they beat Cleveland today. Like I don't know, man. Like they beat the Bills and on the road in Buffalo, it's a good win. But still, New England they're playing with a lot of confidence right now, though, right? And Drake May's playing really well. Then you have the Bills with Josh Allen. Then you have the Rams with Matthew Stafford. So yeah, it's 3 games here where you're hoping that. Like even if you go 1-2, that's almost like an all right. It's like just like avoid 0-3. It's a tough stretch, and 2 of those 3 games are on the road. So, yeah, hopefully Baker's able to get right, or right enough during this bye week because they're gonna need him in these games. Like they are gonna need him to be much better in these games, or else they're not gonna win many of them.
I think over the course of the week, we are going to have a lot more to break down from this game, specifically about the offense, just trying to diagnose what really went wrong out there. But a couple of the guys that stepped up made plays today. We talked about Emeka Egbuka, 3 catches for 35 yards. I thought he had a very underrated play that set up a field goal for the Buccaneers at the end of one of those drives. I don't remember exactly.
It was the 3rd and 17. Got it to a 4th and 10, and it made it a more manageable. I think it was a 54-yarder.
Yeah, more manageable. I mean that ultimately what I wanted to get to here in a second. Hang on.
Are we okay now with the whole Chase McLaughlin thing, or is that still a thing we're trying to do?
Shout out to Tez Johnson, led the team in catches, 5 receptions, 43 yards. Cade Otton, 4 receptions for 40 yards. Surprised, honestly, that Cade Otton does not have a touchdown yet this season. But
almost.
Yeah, he's come close, but got the
He
Buccaneers.
he was literally an inch.
Yeah.
And when he didn't score, I was like, man, they're gonna get stuffed again, aren't
Yeah.
they? And they
Yeah.
almost did.
It was brutal, but I'm glad to see him getting involved in the pass game. Hopefully, we see him in the end zone sometime this season. We mentioned Ibuka, Rashad White, 2 carries for 26 yards, had a very impressive play on a screen, first down and then some. That's what you like to see from Rashad White, who again carrying the football didn't have the strongest day. And then Sterling Shepard, 1 catch for 8 yards. So yes, let's get into special teams here. And we've already eaten crow on this show a little bit with the Anthony Nelson discussion earlier to kick things off, but Money Mac, dude, I listen. I need to. I gotta say it because he was on my shit list, and today he goes 3 for 3. His long from 55, but all 3 of those were from 50 plus yards, which means he is a perfect 8 for 8 so far this season on 50 plus yarders. He is 40 of 47 on 50-plus yarders in his NFL career at 85.1%. He is the only player in the NFL right now this season with 3 or more 50-plus yard field goals in a single game. So, yes, Money Mac is back. Dare I say he is all the way back, and I don't know if we have to question whether he left ever again, and I apologize to Chase McLaughlin. Yeah, Money Mac is back, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, and those are clutch kicks, right? I mean, he makes the one, obviously it's 14-3, he makes the one to get it to 17-3, but then he makes the other one to make it a 3-score game, right? Gets it to 20-3, and that's pretty critical, right? So the Bucs, struggled to they only scored 1 touchdown on the offensive side of the ball, right? Like they struggled to get the ball in the end zone. But when you have a reliable kicker like that, it makes life a lot easier. So, yeah, it was nice to see, and hopefully, I mean, can't live that way, right? You can't just keep kicking field goals. You need to punch the ball in the end zone. But on a day like today when the defense is playing how they are, a lot of times that'll be enough. So, and it was today.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think things have been going suspiciously well for the special teams unit now.
Something's got to give.
So hopefully with a bye week they can keep things the way that they are right now. They seemingly have figured things out. The Buccaneers defense seemingly have figured things out. Hopefully they can come out swinging on the other side of the bye week, as we mentioned that they have a very tough stretch. Looking for answers on the offensive side of the ball. I have all the faith in the world that they are going to go back to the lab and they are going to be ready to go for these 3 games coming out of the bye. But Baker Mayfield, Josh Grizzard, going to have their work cut out for them as we look for things to continue. Hopefully we get some positive injury updates as well. Bucky Irving's presence is huge. And I know that, we talk about this run game a lot. We talk about Bucky Irving. You can't talk about the run game and not mention the offensive line as well. That right side, missing Luke Gedeke, missing Cody Mauch. That is a huge game changer. And it seems like with Tristan Wirfs kind of playing the way he has these last couple of weeks, the Bucs just don't have those dominating people movers up front like they have had, especially like they had last year when these guys were playing much healthier than they are now. So looking to get healthy, looking to stay healthy on the other side of the bye. But 20-point win for the Bucs over an NFC South opponent. I am never going to be disappointed in that. Evan, any final thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, the other thing is I think the one caller mentioned it earlier is that the Bucs are the only team in the NFC South to get a win today, right? So. Yeah. Falcons, without Michael Penix Jr., without Drake London, without a couple other guys, they lose to Miami, which, it's a bad loss. At the same time, though, you're very banged up, right? You're down your starting quarterback, your number 1 wide receiver, or Kirk Cousins really can't get much going. Then the Panthers get crushed, by the Bills, and then you end up beating the Saints. So you have, a pretty good opportunity here. And I think the Falcons play the Patriots next week. I think the Panthers play the Packers next week. So, I mean, look, you could actually gain ground and be up even more in the NFC South without even playing a game next week, depending on how it goes. So, hopefully that can happen. But, yeah, I mean, was it perfect today from the offense? No. Definitely needs to be better. But they got the job done, and they did just enough to win. Yeah, so you need to be better. But at this point, hopefully you can get healthy enough and for the stretch run here, because you got a couple of critical games, and after this bye week there is no oh man, yeah, we get a break, really. No, that's it. It's this is the best time to get healthy. So hopefully these guys can rest up and be as healthy as possible for the rest of the season.
Yeah, two critical road games that you had mentioned, not to overshadow that or anything for the NFC South here. Falcons on the road against New England, and then the Panthers are on the road in Lambeau. So yeah, right now a 2-division game lead could grow on the other side of the bye week, and the Bucs wouldn't have to lift a finger. That would be ideal. In a perfect world, that would be what we hope happens, but you know the world that we live in, my friend.
Sure.
With all of that being said, that's just about going to do it for today's post-game edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us on YouTube. Thank you guys for all the super chats. Everybody donating to the Wendy's Fun, Amazement 717, Sturb, and then there's one more. Let me get to this here. Amazement 717 again. There's one more. I'm not going to sell you short. Who was it? Chigs. Thank you, Chigs, kicking things off tonight. Yeah, should have been a shutout. What effing whistle. I agree. My friend, I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We truly appreciate you and the Cannon Fire crew. Subscribe for more great Tampa Bay Buccaneers content and all of that throughout the week. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What have you got this week for the people?
Yeah, so going to have reactions. And now we're at the bye week, actually. I'm going to be maybe taking a look at the Buccaneers draft class so far. Just, we're through 8 games. We have a lot more of a sample size now. Sort of have an idea of what this class has been for the Buccaneers. Going to be taking a look at that and seeing how the rookies have performed so far. And then on this channel, obviously going to look a little bit different because the Buccaneers do not have a game next week. So, players watch for what? Betting the Bucs, which we did get one, I think. I have to check. I know we got one because I took the Bucs minus whatever 4.5 it was, whatever I got at. So I do know we got one. I have to check the rest though. I know we didn't get the one Alvin Kamara one because they just didn't want to involve him in the offense at all for some reason. I don't know. I know we didn't get that one, unfortunately, but I do know we got one. So we avoided 0-4 again. So that's good. But yeah, we might have a couple, maybe something fun coming out this week. We'll have to wait and see. But it will look a little bit different this week with the Bucs not playing a game. But I want to thank you all for the support on the videos, right? Because you guys are continuing to watch them, throughout the week, and it's almost every day, in the week we have something for you guys. So we appreciate all the support, and continue watching them.
The Kamara thing was weird because, I thought at the end of the first half he was just hurt. And then he was kind of lingering around in the second half. I saw someone say that he came back just to ruin everybody's parlays, which is pretty funny given all the NBA news recently. I can't wait for the documentary one day on the NFL officiating crews that are deciding these games. I personally look forward to that award-winning 30 for 30 that we're going to get. But that should be a
presented by DraftKings.
Presented by DraftKings. Yeah, here's the official odds on how long this referee is going to sit in jail after being exposed by the FBI. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it because it's happening in the NBA this week. As far as we know. Last but not least, please check me out on social media. You can follow myself, Instagram, and Twitter at Rhettakus. RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. And please check out the Rondé Barber Show. He was blowing my phone up today. He is fired up, ready to talk about the officiating. He is not very happy, so we're going to dive into that on
Surprised
Wednesday.
He's not more fired up to talk about this Buccaneers defense, though.
Well, 100%. I think we're going to cover that as well, but this is 2 weeks in a row now that he is just fed up with it, man. So I'm very excited to hear what he has to say. Check that stuff out. You guys can find it YouTube, any podcast platform at the Rondé Barber Show. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will talk to you guys in the next one, hopefully with some positive injury updates. Maybe we'll get some news, jump on here and let you guys know sometime later this week. But we will see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you guys for listening, and go Bucs.